A widow knocked on the sheriff's office, crying, "He's not your lawman." The morning of accusations. The fog rolled through Dodge City like a living thing that October morning in 1882, thick enough to muffle the sounds of horses and hide the faces of early risers. Sheriff Bill McGraw sat at his desk, reviewing the previous night's reports when the pounding started. "Open this door. I know you're in there." The woman's voice cracked with grief and rage. McGraw recognized that particular combation. He'd heard it from dozens of victims seeking justice. But something in this voice made his coffee cup pause. Halfway to his lips, "Sheriff," the pounding intensified. "Open up, or I'll wake the whole town." Deputy Tom Hayes emerged from the cells, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "What in tarnation? I'll handle it." McGraw set down his cup and walked to the door, each step measured and calm. 7 years of keeping the peace in Dodge City had taught him that panic was contagious. He opened the door to find Martha Caldwell, the recently widowed owner of the general store. Her black mourning dress was dusty from travel, her face streaked with tears, and her eyes burned with the kind of hatred that comes from certainty. "Mrs. Caldwell, please come in. I'm sorry for your loss. Your husband was..." "Don't." She stumbled backward into the street, pointing at him with a shaking finger. "Don't you dare speak his name. You have no right." People began emerging from buildings, drawn by the commotion. McGraw saw the banker, Theberber, and several ranch hands who'd come to town early. An audience was forming. "Ma'am, whatever's troubling you, we should discuss it inside." "No!" Her voice rose to a shriek. "Everyone needs to hear this. Everyone needs to know." She turned to the gathering crowd, her arms spread wide. "This man is a liar. He's not your sheriff. He's not your lawman." The photographed Tom Hayes stepped beside McGraw, confusion clear on his young face. "Mrs. Caldwell, you're distraught. The sheriff here is. His name is Jake Thornton." Martha pulled a photograph from her bag, holding it high for all to see. "He's a murderer and a thief. He killed my husband 7 years ago," the crowd murmured. McGraw stood perfectly still, his weathered face revealing nothing. But Tom noticed his mentor's left hand, the one that always stayed steady during gunfights, had developed a slight tremor. "That's a serious accusation." Judge Barrett's voice cut through the noise as he pushed through the crowd, still in his nightshirt with a coat thrown over it. "May I see this evidence?" Martha thrust the photograph at him. The Silver Dollar Mine robbery in Colorado. October 15, 1875. 5 men robbed the payroll and killed 3 guards. My Henry was one of them. The judge studied the photograph, then looked at McGraw. Others pressed closer, trying to see. The image showed 5 men standing before a mine entrance, all armed, all young. The third man from the left had the same scar above his eyebrow, the same brocheness, and the same piercing blue eyes as their sheriff. The resemblance is striking, Judge Barrett said carefully. "It's not a resemblance." Martha's voice broke. "It's him, Jake Thornton. He shot my Henry in cold blood for $40,000 in gold." The confession, the sun began burning through the fog, revealing more faces in the crowd. McGraw recognized each own people he'd protected, served, and helped over the years. The widow Patterson, who so prevented from drowning, was present drowning. Waz worked beside him during the typhoid outbreak. Sarah Martinez, whose husband's killer he'd brought to justice. "Sheriff?" Tom's voice was small, almost childlike. "Tell them she's wrong. Tell them you were never in Colorado." McGraw finally moved, slowly unbuckling his gun belt. The crowd tensed. Some men reached for their own weapons. "Tom," he said quietly, "take my gun and my badge." "No." Tom stepped back. "No, you can't be. Take them." McGraw let the belt fall to the ground, then unpinned the star from his vest. "Mrs. Caldwell is telling the truth. My name is Jake Thornton." The crowd erupted. Shouts of anger, disbelief, betrayal. Several men drew their guns. Women pulled their children back. Judge Barrett raised his arms. Order. We'll have order. He looked at McGraw at Thornton. You're confessing to murder and robbery? I am. Then you know I have no choice but to judge. Thornton's voice carried the same quiet authority it always had. I'm not running. I'm not fighting. But before you arrest me, let me say one thing. Make it quick. Thornton looked at Martha Caldwell. Your husband died because of choices I made when I was 23 years old. Young, stupid, and desperate. I've lived with his face and the others in my mind every day since. I came to Dodge City to hide, yes. But somewhere in these 7 years, I became the man I was pretending to be. Pretty words don't bring back the dead, Martha sobbed. No, they don't. But maybe my actions have prevented other women from becoming widows. I've tried, Mrs. Caldwell. God knows I've tried to balance the scales. The arrest Tom Hayes stood frozen, the badge heavy in his hand. Around him, the town split into factions. Some called for immediate hanging. Others remembered McGraw's years of service. String him up, shouted Carl Brennan, a cattleman who'd had frequent run-ins with the law. Now hold on. Reverend Phillips pushed forward. This man saved my daughter from those bandits last spring. That counts for something. He's been lying to us for 7 years, Brennan countered. And keeping the peace for 7 years, added Mrs. Chun, whose restaurant McGraw had protected from racial violence. Better than any sheriff before him. Judge Barrett looked tired. The law is clear. Tom, arrest him. Tom looked at the man who'd taught him everything about being a lawman. I can't. You can and you will, Thornton said firmly. Because that's what the law requires. That's what I taught you. The law doesn't bend for anyone, not even me. With shaking hands, Tom placed the shackles on Thornton's wrists. The click echoed in the morning air. As they led him toward the jail, Martha Caldwell followed. The gold, she said loudly. Ask him about the gold. It was never recovered. Thornton stopped. Check the town records, Judge. Every anonymous donation. For 7 years. The schoolhouse. The church bell. The orphan fund. The medicine during the cholera outbreak. $40,000 given back to the people who needed it most. The trial begins. News of Sheriff McGraw's true identity spread across Kansas like wildfire. Within 3 days, Dodge City's population had doubled with reporters, curiosity, seekers, and bounty hunters hoping to claim other hidden rewards. The trial was set for the following Monday. Thornton sat in the cell he'd filled with countless criminals, reading the Bible Reverend Phillips had brought him. Funny, he told Tom during one of his visits. I've sat on the other side of these bars so many times, never thought much about what it felt like in here. Why didn't you run? Tom asked. You knew she'd find you eventually. The widow's been hunting the gang for years. Where would I go? Thornton smiled sadly. This is my home, Tom. These are my people. I'd rather hang as Bill McGraw than live as Jake Thornton. The trial opened to a packed courthouse. Martha Caldwell testified first, her voice steady as she described finding her husband's body, identifying the killers, tracking them across 7 years. 4 are dead, she said. He's the last one, the last man who destroyed my life. The prosecutor, brought in from Topeka, presented evidence of the robbery. Witnesses from Colorado testified about the violence of the crime. The case seemed ironclad. The defense, Thornton's lawyer, hired by a collection of townspeople, called witness after witness from Dodge City. He faced down the Watson gang alone. Testified Frederick Hoffman, the bank president. Saved the entire town's savings. Stayed up 3 nights straight during the typhoid outbreak, added Doc Miller. Wouldn't rest while people were dying. Could have shot me dead, said Robert Daniels, a former outlaw. I was drawing on him. Instead, he talked me down, gave me a chance to surrender. I run a ranch now, have a family, because he showed mercy. Even children testified. Little Mary Patterson, now 12, told how McGraw had jumped into the freezing river to save her when she was 5. The defense lawyer posed a question to the jury. Can a man change? Can 7 years of exemplary service balance 7 minutes of violence? Jake Thornton killed 3 men. Sheriff Bill McGraw saved dozens. Which man are you judging? Eleanor's arrival on the trial's 3rd day. A woman no one recognized entered the courtroom. She was young, well-dressed, with intelligent green eyes that missed nothing. "I need to testify," she announced. Judge Barrett frowned. "Young lady, the witness list is closed." "Then open it." She produced a federal marshal's badge. "Eleanor Watson, special investigator. I have information about the Silver Dollar Mine robbery that changes everything." The courtroom buzzed. The judge called a recess. In his chambers, Eleanor laid out documents. Jake Thornton and his gang were hired for that job. The man who hired them, who planned everything, who chose which guards would die, Josiah Crane. The governor's brother? Judge Barrett went pale. The same. He needed the mine shut down so he could buy the land cheap. The robbery was just a cover. She looked at Thornton. "You were all supposed to die afterward. Crane's men were waiting to ambush you." "But we took a different route," Thornton said slowly. "Sam Morrison was paranoid, made us change the plan. Saving your lives and ruining Crane's cleanup. He's been hunting you ever since, not for justice to silence you." The verdict. Eleanor's testimony changed everything. She revealed how Crane had orchestrated dozens of similar crimes, using outlaws as pawns, then eliminating them. The Silver Dollar Mine was just one of many. "But that doesn't absolve Mr. Thornton," the prosecutor argued. "He still pulled the trigger. He still took lives." The jury deliberated for 8 hours. When they returned, the foreman stood slowly. "On the charge of robbery, we find the defendant guilty." Martha Caldwell gripped her chair. "On the charge of murder... The foreman paused, looking at Thornton. "We find the defendant guilty of manslaughter, not murder. The evidence shows he was manipulated into the crime and has spent 7 years attempting to atone." Judge Barrett nodded. "The court recognizes the unusual circumstances. Mr. Thornton, please rise for sentencing." Thornton stood, back straight. "Jake Thornton, alias Bill McGraw, this court sentences you to life. In service to this community, you will remain as sheriff of Dodge City under federal supervision. You will wear a monitoring device and cannot leave the county. Every month, you will contribute half your salary to a fund for the families of the Silver Dollar victims." The courtroom exploded in chaos, cheers, boos, arguments. Martha's decision after the trial. Martha Caldwell stood outside the courthouse staring at nothing. Thornton approached, still in shackles though they'd be removed soon. "Mrs. Caldwell." She turned, tears fresh on her face. "They let you live." "I'm sorry, I know I wanted my husband back." She pulled out a derringer. "If the law won't give me justice... Thornton didn't move. "Then take it, I won't stop you." They stood frozen, predator and prey, except the prey wasn't running. "Do it," someone shouted. "He deserves it," called another. But other voices rose too. "He's paid his debt. Show mercy." "Don't become like him." Martha's hand shook. "You took everything from me." "I did. And I'll accept whatever you decide." The gun wavered. Tom Hayes and Eleanor Watson watched, ready to intervene but holding back. "Why?" Martha whispered. "Why won't you defend yourself?" "Because you're right. Because your husband deserved better. Because maybe my death will give you peace." The derringer clattered to the ground. Martha collapsed, sobbing. "I can't. God help me, I can't." "You're not that man anymore." The new threat, 2 weeks after the trial, Dodge City tried to return to normal. Thornton resumed his duties, the federal ankle monitor a constant reminder of his past. Some citizens accepted him, others didn't, but most agreed he was still their best option for sheriff. Then Samuel Snake Eyes Morrison rode into town. Thornton was checking on the evening saloons when he saw him, the only other surviving member of the gang, leaning against the lucky dollar. "Jake," Morrison tipped his hat. "Heard about your trial. Very touching." "Sam," Thornton's hand hovered near his gun. "Thought you were in Mexico." "Was, but then I heard something interesting. Josiah Crane's put a bounty on your head. $50,000. Dead, not alive. Let him come." Morrison laughed. "Oh, he's not coming himself, but others are." "Lots of others. You've made this town a target, Jake." "Then I'll protect it." "With what?" "Half the town wants you dead. The other half doesn't trust you, and you're wearing a chain like a dog." Morrison spat. "Join me. We'll take Crane's money and run." "No. You'd rather die defending people who hate you?" "If necessary." Morrison shook his head. "You really have changed. Pity. You were a good outlaw, Jake. You make a better sheriff." The Crane conspiracy. Eleanor Watson set up a temporary office in the hotel, coordinating with federal marshals to build a case against Josiah Crane. But Crane had power, influence, and money, a dangerous combination. "He's hired at least 12 gunmen," Eleanor told Thornton one evening. "They'll come in waves, testing your defenses. Let them come. You can't face them alone." "I won't be alone." Thornton gestured out the window where Tom Hayes was organizing citizen patrols. "This town's stronger than Crane thinks." The first attack came 3 nights later. 4 men tried to burn down the sheriff's office. They were met by armed citizens who'd been waiting. "You see?" Mrs. Chun said afterward, her ancient shotgun still smoking. "We protect our own, even the complicated ones." The second wave targeted the bank, trying to draw Thornton out. But he'd learned from Morrison this was a distraction. The real attack came at the school, where Crane's men planned to take hostages. They didn't expect Martha Caldwell to be there, teaching widows and orphans to read. They certainly didn't expect her to be armed. "You want to create more widows?" she said, holding them at gunpoint until help arrived. "Not in my school." The final showdown. Josiah Crane arrived in Dodge City on a Thursday, bringing 20 men and the confidence of someone who'd never faced real opposition. He set up in the Grand Hotel, sending word that he wanted to meet with Thornton. "It's a trap," Tom warned. "Of course it is." Thornton checked his weapons. "But it's also a chance to end this." The meeting was set for noon in the hotel dining room. Thornton arrived to find Crane waiting, a soft man trying to look hard, surrounded by hired killers. "Sheriff McGraw. Or do you prefer Thornton?" "Either works." "I have a proposition. Leave town tonight. I'll call off the bounty, even give you traveling money." "No." Crane's face reddened. "You killed my men, disrupted my plans, cost me millions. And now you're protecting the federal agent trying to prosecute me. I'm protecting this town. Everyone in it, even if it costs your life, especially then." Crane stood. "Then you'll die like the dog you are." "Boys?" His men reached for their guns. But they'd made a crucial mistake. They'd dismissed the townspeople as threats. Windows shattered as citizens opened fire from across the street. Eleanor Watson and federal marshals burst through the kitchen doors. Tom Hayes led deputies through the front. The gunfight lasted less than a minute. When the smoke cleared, half of Crane's men were dead, the rest surrendering. Crane himself cowered behind an overturned table. "Josiah Crane," Eleanor announced. "You're under arrest for conspiracy, murder, and about 30 other charges." Morrison's choice during the chaos at the hotel. Morrison had slipped into the sheriff's office. He was rifling through Thornton's desk when he heard a click. "Looking for something?" Thornton stood in the doorway, gun drawn. Morrison laughed. "You knew I'd come here. You always liked to work alone while others fought." Find what you're looking for. Morrison held up a journal. Your confession. Every crime, every detail. Were you planning to publish it? Eventually. The families deserve to know everything. You really have lost your mind. Morrison set down the journal. So what now? You arrest me? Kill me? Neither. You leave town and never come back. Just like that? Just like that. You were a friend once, Sam. Before we let greed turn us into monsters. I can't save the man you were, but I won't kill the man you are. Morrison studied him. The great Jake Thornton, offering mercy. Bill McGraw, offering a choice, same one I had, change or die as the man you are. For a long moment, they faced each other, the last of the Thornton gang, one redeemed, one still deciding. Finally, Morrison holstered his gun. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's time for something new. He walked to Theodore and paused. For what it's worth, Jake, you make a better sheriff than you ever did an outlaw. Healing wounds with Crane arrested and his conspiracy exposed, Dodge City began to heal. The federal government seized Crane's assets, using them to compensate victims of his crimes, including a substantial payment to Martha Caldwell and other silver dollar families. Martha used the money to expand the school, creating the Henry Caldwell Memorial Academy. She asked Thornton to speak at the dedication. I'm not sure that's appropriate, he said. My husband believed in redemption, she replied. Took me a while to remember that. He'd want his death to mean something. Your story, our story, it means something. The dedication drew people from across Kansas. Thornton spoke simply about choices, consequences, and the possibility of change. I can't undo the past, he said. But I can help build a better future. That's all any of us can do. After the ceremony, a young man approached Henry Caldwell, Jr., who'd been a baby when his father died. My mother says you've written down everything about that day. I have. May I read it? Thornton handed him the journal. Your father was brave. He tried to protect the others. I want you to know that. The young man nodded, eyes wet. Thank you for the truth. And for becoming the man you are now. The legacy 5 years passed. Thornton continued as sheriff, his ankle monitor eventually removed, though he never left Dodge City. The town prospered, becoming a model for frontier justice and redemption. Tom Hayes became a full sheriff in a neighboring county, trained in Thornton's methods of keeping peace through strength and mercy. Eleanor Watson rose through the federal ranks, always crediting her time in Dodge City as formative. Morrison sent a letter once from California, where he'd become a security consultant for banks, using his outlaw knowledge to prevent robberies. You were right, he wrote. Change is possible. On a warm spring evening, Thornton stood in the cemetery, placing flowers on 3 graves, Henry Caldwell, and the other 2 guards from Silver Dollar. Martha Caldwell joined him, as she often did. Do you think they forgive us? She asked. I think they'd want us to forgive ourselves, Thornton replied, to use our pain for something better. As they walked back to town past the school where children played, past the businesses thriving under fair law, past citizens who nodded respectfully to their sheriff, Martha spoke again. You know what Henry used to say? That every man has 2 lives, the one he lives and the one he wishes he'd lived. You found a way to live both. No, Thornton corrected gently. I buried one man and became another. Jake Thornton died that day you confronted me. Bill McGraw, the real Bill McGraw, was born. The sun set over Dodge City, painting the sky crimson and gold. Somewhere a church bell rang, forged from gold that had once carried the weight of blood, but now called people to prayer and hope. Sheriff Bill McGraw adjusted his badge and walked toward the office where young deputies waited for training, where citizens sought justice, where redemption was daily proven possible. He was now and forever their lawman. The letter 20. Years after that foggy morning, A package arrived at the Dodge City Sheriff's Office addressed to the sheriff, who was Jake Thornton. Inside was a letter and a faded photograph. Dear Sheriff McGraw, my name is Thomas Mitchell. My grandfather was one of the guards at Silver Dollar, not one who died, but one who survived because Henry Caldwell pushed him out of the way. I've followed your story over the years. My grandfather never forgot that day, but he also never forgot hearing about what you became. Before he passed, he asked me to send you this. The photograph is of him with his family 3 generations that exist because Henry Caldwell was brave, and because you chose to honor his sacrifice with your life. We cannot change the past, but we can transform its meaning. You have done that, sir. You turned tragedy into purpose, death into life, crime into justice. My grandfather wanted you to know, you are forgiven. More than that, you are respected. Thank you for becoming the man Dodge City needed. Thank you for proving that redemption is real. With gratitude, Thomas Mitchell. The aging sheriff sat at his desk, the same desk where he'd started each morning for decades, and looked at the photograph of a family he'd helped save without knowing it. Outside, Dodge City thrived peaceful, prosperous, proof that even the wildest places could be tamed not by violence, but by justice tempered with mercy. Bill McGraw smiled, tucked the letter into his journal, and prepared for another day of serving the town that had taught him how to be the lawman he was always meant to be. The past was gone, but its lessons lived on, written not in sand or blood, but in the lives changed by one man's choice to become better than he was. In Dodge City, they still tell the story of the widow who knocked on the sheriff's door crying, "He's not your lawman." They tell it as a reminder that sometimes the best lawman is the one who understands both sides of the law, who knows the weight of guilt and the power of redemption. And they always end the story the same way. He became our lawman, and that made all the difference. The end. Did you enjoy this story? What did you think of Sheriff McGraw's journey from outlaw to lawman? Can people truly change, or are we forever defined by our worst moments? Leave a comment below sharing your favorite part of the story, what you think happened to Morrison in California, whether you believe Martha Caldwell made the right choice. If you love Western tales of redemption, mystery, and justice, don't forget to like this story, comment your thoughts, subscribe to our channel for more gripping Western stories, share with friends who love a good redemption tale, click the notification bell so you never miss our weekly Western adventures.